I've said it already. We live in the age of intelligence and no longer live in the age of information. I've heard from people that it's not an education issue. It's an application or perhaps an integration issue, an integration of the information, but it's truly not an access to information issue. It's primarily an education issue at the beginning because you can't do what you don't know about. So everyone out there who doesn't have the awareness of even what to want to know or what they should even know, you have no clue that you have no clue until you figure it out. Damn, I never knew. But once you get exposed to the information and you get exposed to the access of the information, you do get edified and you do get educated. Then it's not a matter of education or access to information. It's a matter of understanding that answers don't solve problems. People do. The answers are all around us. It's the year 2025. You know, I'm not letting up on none of this fucking reparations bullshit that a lot of people trying to run, and they talking and begging the system to give them shit. Listen, you gonna get these resources and you're gonna squander them because your mind is poor. It's straight up like that. You have everything at your disposal. In the year 2025, you have Chat GPT, you niggas got EBT, you niggas got Sheikhy Chic, and you got pocket TVs. So really it's up to you to be resourceful. It's not a matter of access to information, because even if we go back 20 years, the internet didn't have such a hyper level of interconnectedness where the sharing of information was so rapid that you could communicate with others across the world and also have access to infinite databases. It wasn't like that 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 70 years ago, 100 years ago. Just recently, the whole world has been cracked open. So it's not a matter of access to information. And one thing you have to recognize is that all information isn't correct information. There's plenty of misinformation out there. So be careful what information you allow to inform you, because all information that you allow to be informing you will be information, informing you and transforming you thus. So even if you take on false information, you will be, at the end of the day, falsifying yourself and acting out false information. So you have to find sound, correct, actual, authentic knowledge, authentic information that is congruent with life, non-erroneous information, because if we can say misinformation, there's erroneous information out there. And the root of your whole entire existence is rooted in all of the errors you make. I have a client, just as an anecdote, I have a client. He asked me, how do you know to go off your feelings? And because I go off of instinct and I go off of intuition and I go off of feelings, because I've cleaned out the clutter. I've gotten myself to a level of mental acuity where I actually have research methods. I don't just believe myself to believe myself. I actually pose a hypothesis, an alternative hypothesis, and I see if my hypothesis is true. I don't rush to conclusions. I'm not reckless to believe and unwilling to doubt, where the world is more unwilling to doubt themselves and reckless to believe themselves. I'm a true thoroughbred scientist. I don't want to be right. I just want the right answer. You feel me? Whatever you are, your world is yours. So as I'm telling my student at the time that they need to understand one basic principle, which is you have to understand your math ain't mathin'. Logic and math are the same thing. Math is the logic of the mind. Logic is the math of the soul. So, for example, we're talking about information and we're talking about erroneous errors, making errors in your judgments and your conclusions. As you're going through life and you're problem solving, because life is one perpetual solving of a problem. It's an evolving solving of problems. You're coming to erroneous conclusions because your deductions and your math is incorrect. Suppose we do the problem 2x times 5 equals 10, right? And you input 7 for x. 2 times 7 is 14, does not equal 10. So by inputting incorrect values, you're coming down to incorrect conclusions. So the flaw is never in the universe. I wrote this in How to Not Be Poor, and I'm going to say this before I continue. If you can't keep up with this level of comprehension, then trust me, you're going to always live on an inferior plane of existence. It's no longer the higher frequency's responsibility to come down to the lower frequency to make sure you catch up. We're moving so fast that it's either you catch up or get left behind. You have to learn how to match the pace of the masters in the race. Consider the vibrations raised. Now, as you understand, you're coming down to these erroneous conclusions and you're coming down to these errors. So until you actually perfect your mental spiritual math, which is the faculty of logic coupled with reason, then you're going to continuously move through life making errors and coming down to wrong inputs. Now, we bring it all back. Is it an education issue? It is an education issue because people can't do what they don't know they can do. If you don't know what it is, you can't do it. You can't do what you don't know about. Therefore, you need to be exposed to the information. And it's the age of intelligence. It's not simply information because the information is out there, right? So even as I'm navigating and using ChatGPT to ask questions that I can't even ask people because I ask such high level questions. This is why people fuck with me, because I ask very high level questions. Intelligence is not even in the answers anymore. It's in the formulation of the question. The degree of intelligence and the degree of response you're going to get from the world is going to be measured by the quality of the questions you're asking. It's not about simply getting a script of answers or getting a memorized transcript or a page or somebody giving you information verbally. Nah, the intelligence is not in the answer because a lot of people memorize and report back memorized answers with failed comprehension. They just memorize without comprehension. That's not true intellectualization. What you need to recognize is that fundamentally it's in the question. Now we're in the age of intelligence, and those who ask superior questions get superior responses. And most people are not even asking questions, let alone asking high-level questions, because they have no reference within their soul, within their intellect, within their mind to even use this piece of knowledge to try to connect it with something higher, XYZ. Again, if you can't keep up, that's your fault. We're not here for the dummies. Day room dummies, stay in a lower level. Anyway, whatever you are, your world is yours. Understand that it's an education issue because mainly a lot of people don't even know what to want to know. That's a different level of cognition. That's a level of metacognition. Not knowing what to want to know in order to know what to do in order to get the result that some people don't even know is possible. You can't even imagine what you don't know about. So until you get exposed, like if you've never seen a square and been told what a square was, you wouldn't be able to imagine a square. Now, we've all been exposed to squares and circles and triangles since we were children, but suppose you get an idea from someone and you've never seen, touched, or perceived with your senses. You have no reference. You can't imagine. The imagination is utilized by prior sense experiences. So anyway, break it down, keep it 101 for at least the people who are trying to keep up. It is an education issue. You don't know what you need to know because if you knew what you needed to know in the way you needed to know it, you would already be at the higher pedigree of existence. And everything in this life is about improving the quality of said conditions. You're not here to simply mosey on through life and move wayward. Everybody intrinsically wants better. Every single last thing, from the inanimate objects and the atoms which vibrate within those, moving towards higher complexity and stability, to all of the organisms, from the plant to the animal to the human. Whatever you are, your world is yours. Everything is seeking advancement, consciously or unconsciously. But until you recognize and awaken the true power of your mind, which happens through education, not simply accumulating information, but the intelligent application of information post-education towards producing very particular results efficaciously, then you're going to realize what it means to be human in a world full of individuals who wake up day after day making the same mistakes, getting the same results, or even worse. That's one thing you never want to be in this life. An individual who shows up every day seeking a particular outcome and only getting the same result or even worse every day. That's the problem with people saying consistency is the key. Consistency is not the key. Too many consistent people, not enough people getting appreciable, respectable, admirable, high-level, excellent results. And it's just a matter of degrees. It's a matter of to what degree do you truly need to succeed. It's an identity problem, and it's an identity crisis, because the crazy thing that baffles me is that people walk this earth and disidentify with greater planes of success and only subject themselves to staying put in places that they've been born and who they've been prescribed to tell themselves that they are and how they should fashion. Just because you were born in a particular socioeconomic position, whether that is, an intersectional position, intersectional meaning a multivariate condition and circumstance of your existence. That's your race, quote unquote, or your ethnicity, your cultural background, your human anthropological cultural background, coupled with your socioeconomic status, coupled with your biological sex. These different variables which contribute to what you are in the environment and how you relate to other multivariate combinations in the environment, whether that be people, places, or things. These things are definitions of how you incarnated into this world. It's just what it is. But most people subconsciously lock themselves into operating within a particular caste. Now, I've always had this feeling and this vision since I was 18 and 17, and you study ancient India, South Asia, and they had the caste system from the Brahmins and the this and the that and the untouchable, this whole caste system where even it was spiritually monopolized to the point where people are born into certain caste and blamed for having been born into that caste based on their past lives and their previous karma. So if you're born in the lower class, then you're supposedly coming into life from having bad dharma. There's dharma and there's karma. Dharma is the work that you're supposed to be doing in fulfilling your role in whatever level of society you are. So if you were a bad slave or if you were a bad whatever the fuck, you either got demoted or you stayed in the lower class as you reincarnated. And the purpose was to have good dharma and have good karma so that in your next life, you get to rise up to another level within the totem of Brahma. This is real, right? So then as we translate this has people projecting themselves into the future, identifying with staying as they are, psychologically locking themselves into being born into this socioeconomic, civilizational, societal paradigm, keeping themselves there and identifying with that, locking themselves in and saying, hey, in the next life, if I'm just a good little boy, if I'm a good little nigger boy, keep it gangster, then I'm going to be reincarnated into the next higher upper echelon of society back on this same bullshit planet of Earth. And the flaw in all of that is that when you pay attention to that system, particularly the karmic, dharmic system that was in South Asia, in India, the darker the skin, the lower the caste. So it blames people for being black, and it only reinforces racist narratives. It's just what it is. The Aryans and the people at the top, they're light-skinned, and the people at the bottom are dark-skinned, and that's what perpetuates. So as we bring it back to what I was saying, so many people have this false conception that they have to be locked into whoever they were born as. It's an identity issue. Some of y'all think black people are supposed to be poor. Some people, y'all walk around thinking y'all are slaves, or thinking that having had been slaves most recently in human history actually means anything, as if everybody in all of human history hasn't endured some page of slavery and being pressed into servitude. You've just been indoctrinated. You don't even recognize that you've been institutionalized since you were a child. You don't need to go to prison. The prison isn't the only institution. The family is an institution. The schools are an institution. The churches, the mosques, the synagogues are institutions. These are places in ideological state apparatuses. These are ideological apparatuses. If you look up the person Althusser, you'll be able to find great, vast literature on the subject. But there's the ideological state apparatus where you get socially reared and presented ideas and get socially conditioned to operate as such. So when you first went to school, I know that when I first went to school, And I didn't know about racism up until the point that they told me Martin Luther King couldn't hang out with his friend because his friend's father said you can't hang out with black people. And therefore, my mind split into racial paradigms. Before that, I just was. And I'm so aware of it that I'm aware that even white kids go to school, black kids go to school. They come out with two different experiences and two different worldviews because one ends up identifying as have been tortured and having all these images presented to them that if in the case they behave a certain way that they were punished for this and that you don't even recognize all of these subconscious fears. I remember one time I was tripping acid and I just felt like running down the block or making a lap around the block. And I was afraid because I'm like, oh, don't be that because, being black, they're going to reprimand you just for existing, bro. Whatever you are, your world is yours. So I'm not focused on the liberation of quote unquote black people particularly because that's a major arbitrary conception. And I'll get into that in another video. But I'm really liberating all souls and I operate as an individual. It just so happens to be that I was incarnated around these particular individuals and that it's my responsibility if I am to grow, because as you go out into different degrees of different anthropological, cultural backgrounds of humans, you have further degrees of separation from relativity and relation. It is what it is. I came out of my father who happens to be a black person and my mother who happens to be a black person who has family who is black people and etc. and cousins and etc. etc. Yeah, we're all one human family. But you got to understand that when it comes down to locality, economy, things like that, those who are most proximal to you are the people that will be most likely to either help you flourish in this life or be the ones that have not helped you flourish in this life. The craziest thing in this life is that I had to leave. If I was to leave myself only to exposing myself to people of African descent, black people, whatever the fuck you want to call it, I wouldn't be as successful as I am, because if it were up to them, I'd be just like them. And most of them are locked into some bullshit ass curse in their mind. Why your world's yours. Consider the vibrations raised. Is it an education issue? It definitely is an education issue. But it's not simply an accumulation of information issue, because, like I said, keep this in mind. Answers don't solve problems. People do. So you have to apply the answers that you receive. And when you work with an individual like me, I expedite your arrival of consciousness to that place where it would never be. I know things you will never know for 1,000, 10,000s of years. And you only have this much time to exist in this life. Fuck a future life, fuck a next life, fuck a anything. We got this here and now. People who really believe in afterlives and shit tend to procrastinate more because they believe they have that luxury. Some people even believe they have the luxury of living till tomorrow. We're not moving like that. We live in a divine state of gratitude where we know that at any time we could just get our shit pulled and our heart could stop. It don't even have to be some calamity and some interpersonal shit. You could just fucking tap out, bro. It just happens. Some people just drop, bro. So you have to leave it all on the planet. You're here to serve. You're here to deliver. You're here to live. You're here to learn. You're not here to live the same day in and out, waking up to doing whatever the fuck, the same shit, going through the same motions, and then walking yourself into a ditch. There's so much to experience. And if you walk with me, learn with me, I will teach you and guide you along the lines you need to be taught and guided so that you cannot be saved by me. I'm not nobody's savior. I want you to learn how to save yourself. Whatever you are, your world is yours. The evolution can only be guided. It cannot be provided. I can give you the answers. Look at all of the people who have the answers, but who have not proven application of the answers, because answers themselves don't solve problems. People do. So you have to apply the answers. But first, you need to know what to know. You need to know what to know, what to want to know, what to want to do with the knowledge to get the result that you don't possibly think is possible for yourself right now. But open your eyes. Look at what I've done with my life. I came from being slumped by the toilet, one of the most degenerate souls on the planet, womanizing, smoking, drinking, just a fucking borderline demon, bro. I was a jinn, bro. I was a walking fucking jinn. And at one point or another, I said, fuck it. I'm just going to give it up. You know, people who are moving with negative karma, like I was, are spiritual criminals. They're spiritual criminals. And at a certain point, you don't want no smoke with God. You know what I'm saying? You don't want no smoke with karma. So I just realized I no longer wanted to accumulate any negative karma. And I'm at the point where I'm at a very high level where I seldom want to interact with the material world outside of my calling in the way that I'm doing right now. Because every time I step off the Sirat al-Mustaqim, or the straight and narrow path, for any type of lower frequency thing where I'm off of the path, I incur a karmic penalty. Whenever you interact with a human in an unhalal way, in a non-halal way, trust me, you will incur karma. Don't take on any unnecessary karma. The purpose is to remove yourself from the karmic cycle, undo all your negative karma, heal yourself, and then as you interact, give piece of good, step back. Only input good and step back. You don't want to add any negative or take away any greatness, which is you acting as a negative source, from the whole. Consider the vibrations raised. Evolution only solution, self-mastery only success. Is it an education issue? It definitely is an education issue. Is it only an education issue? No. Was it an accumulation of information issue? No, because we have what? Chat GPT, you motherfuckers got EBT, you motherfuckers got Sheikhy Chic, and you got pocket TVs. So really, the access to the information is not the issue. It's the intelligent application towards specific practical ends at a high degree and creating specific results and outcomes with the information, aka improving the quality of one's existential condition with the information to improve and evolve. Whatever you want, your world is yours. I don't got time for day room dummies. I used to be like, hey, everybody come on. But that's proven itself to be flawed. If you have the will, we have the way. Pull up. Whatever you want, your world is yours. Consider vibrations raised, evolution only solution, self-mastery only success. We just gonna keep shining.